All right, so we're just going to do another little recap here. So finding the square of a whole number. So if I'm going to find the square of a whole number, right? So this side here would be 3 squares, right? And this side here is going to be 3 squares, right? So that would be 3 times 3, and that's going to be equal to 9, right? Because there's 3 squares going this way, going in a row, and there's 3 squares going down. So it's 9 squares. Okay, we could also write this as 3 squared. Okay. Now, when we're looking at decimals, what I like to do is I like to square this number first. Okay, so I know that, well, this squared is 0.5, right? Times 0.5. So what I meant by what I said about square this number first is I ignore the decimals. I pretend they're not there, and I just say, hey, what's 5 times 5? And that's 25. Now, if you watch the review videos that I posted, okay, you'll know that I have to look at this number first, and I see where the decimal is. So I count that as 1, so I move the decimal over 1 place, right? And then I'm going to look at the next number, and I'm going to move the decimal a 2nd place. And so I know that the decimal is going to go right there. If you need to review that decimal video again, please feel free. You can watch it as many times as you want. That's why I make these videos. So if this is not making sense, review the decimal video. If it is making sense, then just continue. And if you still don't understand after watching that video, then please do come and see me. Okay, so basically the 1.2, right? 1 and 2/10 squared is going to be written like this. So the first thing I do is I just say, what is 12 times 12? Well, I know that 12 times 12 is 144. Okay, then I do the same thing again as I look to where the decimal is. So I know I need to move the decimal over 1 place. And then I look at the decimal on this side, on the second number, and I can move the decimal this 1 more place. And I know that the answer would then be 1 and 44 hundredths, right? Because this last 4 is in the hundredths place. So we're going to remember here, when I was looking at 25 and I was trying to find the perfect squares, I would think what times what equals 25, right? And so that would be 5 times 5 is equal to 25. Same as 81, I know that's 9 times 9. And 64, I know that's 8 times 8. But what if I'm trying to find the square root of 13? Okay, so like if I was doing 13 and I want to find what squared equals 13, right? I know this is not going to be a whole number like 8 is. It is going to have a decimal. So we're going to break this into smaller steps. I'm going to have a look. So what at these questions here first? Can I share 10 evenly between 2 people? Absolutely I can, right? This person gets $5, woohoo, and this person gets $5, fantastic. Same as 14, right? This person is going to get $7 and this person is going to get $7, and I know that they're even. And this, I probably shouldn't do it this way, but I know this is addition, right? This is not multiplication. We are not making factors here. And I can split 20 with my 2 buddies, right? And this buddy is going to get $10 and I'm going to get $10. But what about D? I have $15. Okay, and if I compare B and D, $15 is just a little bit more than 14, but it's less than C, right? So it's going to fit somewhere in between there. So I know it's going to be somewhere in between $7 and $10, right? And I can actually break that money. So if I had $15, that would be a 10 and a 5, right? So I could break it up into smaller dollars, right? So I know that this person, I know that this person, okay, if I'm going to break the 10 up, is going to get a 5 from the 10, and this person's going to get a 5 from the 10, right? Now, I'm going to look at the 5, and half of 5 is going to be $2.50 and $2.50, right? And then I can add them back together. So I know that each person is going to get $7.50. Okay, so this is not a whole number because it has a decimal. Now, what does this have to do with finding square roots? All right, now I'm going to find the whole number that a square root fits between. So what do I mean? I mean, like on a number line here, where are these non-whole numbers going to fit on the number line in between the different numbers? Okay, so the non-perfect squares, that's what we're looking at. So if I have 13, I know that there's two numbers that are going to multiply together to get 13. Just like there's two numbers that multiply to get 1, two numbers that multiply to get 4, two numbers that multiply to get 3, two numbers that multiply to get 16, and two numbers that multiply to get 10. So if I'm trying to find the square root of 13, the first thing I need to think about is where does this number fit on the number line? Okay, so I'm going to look at this number here, and I know if looking here that it is going to fit in between, okay, in between 3 and 4 on the number line, okay, because the square root of 16 is 4 and the square root of 9 is 3. So I know it's going to fit in between those two numbers on the number line. It will fit somewhere in there. So I know that it's going to be 3 decimal something. Okay, we're going to get back to this later. All right. Now, this looks a little confusing, but it's not. Trust me. Okay, so if I'm looking at the square root of 8, and I'm trying to figure out where it is between, I can multiply it by the square root of 8, and that's just going to be 8. And I can prove that because the square root of 8 times 8 is 64, and then I can take the square root of that, and that's 8, right? So 8 is between, okay, 2 times 2, which is 4, and 3 times 3, which is 9. So it's going to fit in between it's going to fit in between 2 and 3, okay? Now, if you want to double check me on that, you can take the square root of 8 on your calculator. But for right now, let's just stick with this routine, okay? So let's do this again. I am looking for this where the square root of 21 fits on the number line, right? So all I'm going to do is multiply it by its square root, by its same square root, and then I get 21. And I think 21, if I look back, right, 21 is not on here yet. Oops, why did I put 20 there? That should be 25. Okay, sorry, 21 is on here yet, because if I look, 25 is here and 16 is here. So I know it's going to fit somewhere in between 4 and 5. Okay, so I know that it's going to fit somewhere between 4 times 4, that is 16, and 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, and then I know that the square root of 21 is going to be between, on the number line, between 4 and 5. So if I go back, it's going to fit in here somewhere. Okay, so right now we're just finding where it fits on the number line. All right, now I want you to try C and D on your own. And notice that D, I didn't even write out the rest of this stuff. So, but I want you to do that. So right now, again, pause the video, and I want you to work this out on a scratch piece of paper. Okay, welcome back. So I'm looking for where square root 11 fits on the number line. So what numbers they fit between. So I'm going to get rid of the square root sign by multiplying the square roots together. So I get 11. So 11 is going to be between. So if I look back, okay, 11 is going to fit in between. I'm going to get rid of some of these so that we can see. Whoops. Okay, so we can see. So it is going to fit between 9 and 16. So I know that somewhere on the number line between 3 and 4, the square root of 11 is going to be in there somewhere. And that's where it's going to fit and live on the number line. So I know that 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, so it's going to be between 3 and 4 on the number line. Okay, and here we go. The square root of 18 is equal to 18 is between, okay, and then I know 4 times 4 equals 16, right? So just one below, and 5 times 5 equals 25. So the square root of 18 is between 4 and 5 on the number line. So if I drew the number line out, and that's 4 and that's 5, right? And somewhere in here, because I'm not 100% sure where, is going to be the square root of 18. It's going to fit in there somewhere. All right, now let's visualize this. Okay, so let's take the number, I'll still use green, 19, okay? Now, if I have this here, this first square, so if I look, this is a 1 by 1 square, right? I'm gonna look at the square here. That's a 1 by 1 square. That square is right there, okay? And that is 1 squared, right? This is 2 squared, 3 squared, right? If you look here, okay? And notice how they all kind of fit into each other. So if the number line analogy doesn't work for you, then hopefully this one does. Okay, so that's 3 squared, which is 9, okay? And so now 19, I know would be between 4 and 5 because 4 squared is 16 and 5 squared is 25. Okay, so it's going to fit somewhere in here because 19 fits somewhere in there. Okay, so now if I want to show the perfect square of 19, okay, so this is 9. Here, this is 4, so that would be 16. And this would be 5 because it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares that way, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares that way. So this is 5. It's going to fit somewhere in between. So it's going to include all of the squares up until this point, right? Because that's 16, 17, 18, 17, 18, 19, right? Now, that does not make a square, does it? But it shows that it's somewhere between 4 and 5, right? So what would that actually look like if I did the actual square? So let's get rid of this. And it would be, the actual square would fit somewhere like this in between. That's what the square would look like. So it shows that there's going to be a decimal. Again, like if I was going to look at the square root of 11, I can draw it out this way, right? It has 1, 2, 3, 4. Do use a different color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 squares, right? But they're not even. So if you look at this representation over here, it shows that it's in between. This is 3 by 3, right? So it's 3 squared. It's in between 3 and 4 because it hasn't filled up those 4 squares, right? So it's somewhere in between, and it will be closer to 3 if we draw the number line. 11 will be closer to 3, somewhere in here, on the number line than it is to 4. All right. So I want you to find 3 numbers that fit between 5 and 6. So pause the video, please, and find some numbers that fit between 5 and 6. Okay, so I know that 5 times 5 equals 25, and 6 times 6 equals 36. So I know that they're going to be in between there somewhere, right? So I know that 26 would be between, 27 would be between, and 28. All of them would be in between these two numbers because if I square 6, it is 36, or if I take the square root of 36, it will be 6. Okay, 29 would fit, 30 would fit, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35 would all fit in between these two numbers on the number line. Okay, and they would all be little points that would be peppered all the way along, all the way to 36. Okay, so if you have any questions on this, please do not hesitate to send me an email or just pop into our drop-in times.